So, MBT the other day posted a video onto his clip channel called We Need to Talk About How We Talk. And I want to give this a brief watch through and give you guys my thoughts. But before we get started, this video is sponsored by Ren. Ren is a simple and effective way to make a difference in the ongoing climate crisis, where you can calculate your carbon footprint and then offset it by funding a diverse mix of carbon reduction projects like tree planting, mineral weathering, and rainforest protection. Because I personally live in California and I actually do know someone who unfortunately lost their home to a California wildfire, one of the projects I support is the Biochar in California project, which looks to prevent these sort of wildfires while locking up plant carbon for thousands of years. And as a community that consumes cardboard and plastic like no other, I think that it's really important for us to recognize the ecological impact that we have and to do our best to offset it. Ren's got a ton of projects which you can check out, and you can receive monthly updates from the projects that you support, and you get to see what your money is being spent on with photos, details, everything. So be sure to offset your carbon footprint on Ren. The first 100 people who sign up using the link in the description will have 10 extra trees planted in their name. So go sign up now.
I hate to even say this, but I think it's at least like, acknowledging the existence of it. I think that like week in, week out, like comments every single week, like hundreds of comments saying like, holy shit, Doug's like the worst player I've ever seen, is like starting to get to be a little bit in the series. Like it is so funny, the amount of people that like legitimately think like MBT is like a pro player and I'm like a casual at locals, even though I have like real top. See, it's like, I don't know, like this is such a dumb complaint, right?
I legitimately can't fathom this mindset, right? Like, what? And you know what? It is not something that you would see in any other card game.
I legitimately think that in any other game in general, you will see people be like, X player is washed, X player is bad, etc., chatting just because, just like a microcosm of what they've seen in like either personal play, stream play, YouTube play, like just like anything. People will say like fucking Tyler 1 is awful at the game when like he's fucking challenger on like 8 accounts. People just love to like talk shit.
Doug is a much better constructed player than me by a large margin. Doug's got tops, plural, you know. His recent performances at YCS's were on the heels of him testing for like a weekend, and like he cleared day 2 at what was it, Hartford.
I'm sorry to like anyone who is a casual player. Day 2 is not a real accomplishment. I'm sorry. Like getting day 2 at a YCS just means like you finished the day X22. Like, ooh, you lost 4 out of your 9 rounds.
This exact sealed environment, all right, has nothing to do with Doug's, you know, quality as a Yu-Gi-Oh player, or even his quality as a limited player.
I'm gonna ask you guys a question. How many of you guys actually care about like the win ratio or the technical play of like Gage in progression, or like Simo's technical play in like history of Yu-Gi-Oh or whatever? How many of you guys like genuinely like give a shit about that? Like most people don't really care. I'm pretty sure like 9 out of 10 commenters are just saying like it's a joke, it's funny, or whatever. I'm pretty sure like that 1 in 10 really sticks in your mind. I think that when it comes to a good Yu-Gi-Oh player, there's a huge stigma behind Yu-Gi tubers in general, as well as the fact that people that we consider as Yu-Gi-Oh duelists as good players is a very specific portion of people, which is exactly those in the pro circuit, in the sense where it's like Jesse Cotton, Patrick Hoban, Pac, etc. Those sort of people whose names pop up almost exclusively in terms of deck building or side decking or whatever. Those are the people who people unequivocally refer to as good, whereas literally anybody else, you're like, yeah, they're an alright player. They're decent.
In terms of Farfa clapping me, the record of Saga Season 2, it was like 55-45, like win percentages. How is that like wrecking me? Not to mention that like the only reason I got to that point, I don't know,
was because we played fun decks for 3 weeks, because Drytron was so embarrassingly one-sided that he was like, for the benefit of my series, which requires viewers to sustain itself, I'm gonna play a fun deck. And then everyone was like, fuck you.
That's 100% right. Anyone who cannot recognize content creators need to put the content first above whatever their win percentage is. Like, I'm sorry, like you just lack critical thinking. You lack to see beyond the fucking skin surface level. Like, we all saw what happened when a long-running series where someone just has an unbelievably powerful pool of cards that they just refuse to hop off of. We get bored and then we leave. That's what happens. The number one biggest example is Simo with Black Wings. I think for like 10 weeks straight, like he played oh, it's time to play Black Wings, it's time to play Black Wing. They literally had to like errata the rules 2 times, and by the end, Gage still was down like 3-7 in terms of like overall win to loss ratio. It was fucking disgusting.
Progression Series really was the first time that we were all able to get invested in playing Yu-Gi-Oh! The same way that people get invested in playing sports, except we all know the people who are playing and they're our friends. And for Gage specifically, I know it really got to him. I don't know. Honestly, I'm surprised, you know, it never got to Doug.
This kind of has to go into a deeper issue regarding what streamer culture is, what internet culture is, and kind of just the understanding that the people who are generally within internet culture groups are like not very well adjusted socially. And this kind of leads to, again, like the idea of the Modern Warfare 2 lobby, where everyone's just like spouting slurs, being racist, and this sort of behavior translates extremely well into like message boards where people are just like being toxic, being gamers, just like dropping slurs, being toxic towards each other. And that culture is still a really large part of what makes certain pockets of the internet, especially gaming, like the internet. Yu-Gi-Oh community is not really an exception in regards to the type of people that are within the community that are especially, you know, gamer-like. And I think that unfortunately people like to sound off in the comments, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's quite interesting to me, like the goldfish brain of commenters sometimes, where one week people are complaining about this broken deck that I'm playing, and then the next week when I switch it up to be fun, people are like, why did you switch it up? And it's like, I don't know what. Oh man.
Because playing Blackwing for 15 episodes almost fucking killed Prague.
Woo, Blackwing!
That's the reason. Because if you show up every weekend with a clear outlier in terms of power level in your series that is meant to vary from episode to episode, people will stop watching. Legitimately. What do you fucking think, you dumbass? Put yourself in the position of a content creator for 30 seconds.
MBT, I think I should do a better job at not being so toxic, using less harsh language. 5 seconds later, what do you think, you fucking dumbass?
Why would you change things in your series if you're winning? Because the goal of this series is not to win. This is something that uniquely Yu-Gi-Oh players cannot understand. It irks me to no end. We saw it so much in Junior Journey, so much in Progression Playoffs. The goal of the series is to have fun.
So one of the big problems that Yu-Gi-Oh has in regards to the idea of having fun is the fact that Yu-Gi-Oh is an extremely fast game. It's the fundamental building block of Yu-Gi-Oh being an extremely fast game, and decks needing to be extremely fast to even be played in any capacity is a really tough concept, especially for modern players or people who play like a 2020, 2021, 2022, that sort of deal. Because you could take 2 very like low power decks, you could take 2 like rogue decks in Magic the Gathering, and you can still have a pretty interactive, fun match. Like you guys will like play your turns, like you guys will have like a back and forth at the very least. Yu-Gi-Oh, your combo or playing your deck is setting up the gates. That is just the reality. Like, unless you're playing specifically like Edison, most Yu-Gi-Oh kind of is a race to the bottom of who can set up the most negates. Like, even if you're playing something like Super Quant versus like Gaia, it's just like a race to the bottom of Super Quant setting up a big towers or Gaia getting a shitty OTK. Like, that's just kind of what Yu-Gi-Oh is.
I just don't get it, man. It's just like maybe it's a result of there not being it's not even. For some reason, there is no way to enjoy Yu-Gi-Oh casually.
The only times I've actually had fun playing Yu-Gi-Oh is alt formats. I'm not even joking. Like, that's why I love Edison so much, because like, yeah, like I'll get upset when I lose. Like I'll be like, sacked by Jesse. He activated like Trap Dust Shoot into Mind Crush. Like, sacked, Lamau. At the end of the day, I don't really give a fuck. Like, nobody really cares. It's just like, it's just fun because we get to just play a low-powered format where there's actually back and forth, and we're just playing for the fun of playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, it's not a format they're supposed to really take seriously. It's just a format that exists for the fun of it. Whereas, like, most forms of current modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Is very much just, I guess I will Sprite Elf, bring back Merly Mill.
They're doing better recently. I think Rivalry is a good step in that direction. But having one format exactly advanced that is constantly dominated by a design choice to make the most powerful archetype of all time TM in every set because they don't want to set rotate means that the Yu-Gi-Oh community has, by and large, coalesced around an idea of competition that excludes other ways of playing the game. It is weird. Magic doesn't have this problem because their most important popular format right now is Commander, which was designed from the ground up to be a format for self-expression and fun.
The same can be said about any alt format in Yu-Gi-Oh! I think that there definitely needs to be significantly like a real support for alt formats in Yu-Gi-Oh! Rather than it just being, haha, here's like a Starlight sheet that you can win tickets for by like farming alt events with like a team. And like the main event, like the only real like considered event is just like advanced, where it's like 50 tournament players, and side events sort of just get like shafted. Where like even though Edison has like a huge budding community that is especially taken off as of late, what did they get? Tickets and a playmat that, although looks pretty cool, why wouldn't I just get that playmat printed for like $30 on like eBay through like a third party, you know?
When I played Alien for a week in GX Prague, GX, by the way, GX playoffs, the period in which, Oversoul Neos was the best deck by a large margin. When I played Alien, we had people in the comments being like, why are you throwing? Why are you playing such an intentionally bad deck?
Why are you playing a deck that has fun? Why are you trying to enjoy your time with your friends and interact with niche, unexplored parts of Yu-Gi-Oh! Design history for the sake of, personal enjoyment, fun, excitement, your experience? Blah!
But he's bad because he can't play Sky Striker against Magispector in my limited series. It's shocking. And, to some degree, I think that I am at least a little personally responsible for how I react to, like, progression and stuff. To me, it's me doing wrestling-style reactions for personal friends of mine. But I keep forgetting that, like, people in chat are like, oh, that gives me license to shit on Gage, too. And, like, it doesn't.
It doesn't help. Like, I know he mentioned that, like, he takes personal responsibility for it, but it really doesn't help when, like, week after week after week after week, like, Farfa would just, like, clown on Gage and Simo, MBT would clown on Gage and Simo, and, like, definitely just having, like, this cyclical cycle where, like, every week you see, like, your favorite streamers, like, do something, and then they're like, oh, yeah, don't worry, like, don't do it. This is a special, specific scenario, and that applies only to me and not to you guys. Like, it's just, like, a very weird message, and it can be, like, confusing to, like, people who are not like 100% familiar with the scene and understand that most content creators are relatively acquainted with each other.
Being Team Doug is just rough. Doug should play someone closer to his skill level, like Jillian. This one manages to be mean to two people. And like, I get that most of the people are joking. They're trying to do riffs. They're trying to do bits. But they're doing so, but the riff or the bit or whatever is like, Doug sucks. That's not really something that's, you can't really riff too much off that.
I mean, to be fair, all Yu-Gi-Oh! Community jokes suck.
It's like, for so long, the culture of watching Yu-Gi-Oh! And spectating Yu-Gi-Oh! And commenting about Yu-Gi-Oh! Has been exactly to show up in the comments, call everyone playing bad, explain that you could have done the combo better, and then, if you're watching long form, type out a 50-step combo that you would have just been able to intuit. I
mean, that's just like all video game culture. That's literally like the entire basis of video game culture, like in general. Like, that's just kind of that's just the entire basis of like video game culture as a nutshell. Like, let's not pretend like Justin TV wasn't populated with just like backseaters going like, need additional pilot. Like, this is like, again, this goes back to the idea of like gaming communities being like inherently toxic due to like the people who occupy these spaces and type of people that these communities attract, etc., etc., etc. It's just like an inherent fact that like most people who are watching are just fucking like 60% lurkers, 30% annoying ass, just like backseat, fuck you, I could have done this better chatters, and like 10% like actual normal people who have like a shred of empathy, Chat, look, my gyro has cum sauce. It's got the cum sauce, chat.
Cheating in Prague is another perfect example of this, because cheating in Leah cheats in Prague, Leah cheats or pulls, that was like a fun thing that we could like, clearly she's not cheating in our For Fun series, right? Intentionally, like clearly. But after like 4 weeks of it, people were like, you need to kick Leah out. It's embarrassing what she's doing to your series. Statistically, there's no way she pulled 2 secrets out of a box. I can't believe that females would do this. It was unreal. Like, we had to stop making the joke because people were doing the same shit they're doing to Doug.
I'm not saying that I'm not in any context saying that, yeah, people are going to be toxic, let's support that, or anything like that. I think that those people should be put into a fucking Chinese internment camp and work to fucking death in the shoe factory. But understanding that the internet does have an extremely ugly side in regards to the people that populate it, especially in gaming communities, I do think that that is something that you have to take into account and prepare for. Is that like an insane take? Is that like insane? Am I a bad person for saying that? I genuinely considered like quitting like a couple times after I got like huge backlash, just like so much hate regarding like the clipping drama, even just like reporting on the drama in general. Like people now are still like some people still are like, I remember when Stevie like made drama to specifically attack Jada for being like trans. I think understanding that and like just accepting that there are pockets of the internet who will like hate you for no reason or take things out of context is a pretty important understanding and acceptance that you do have to come to an understanding with if you are a content creator. If randos on the internet like genuinely bother you to an extent where like you feel extremely depressed or like whatever, I genuinely think that you cannot survive as a content creator. That's just me. A lot of content, especially during the explosion of like Twitch or whatever during the COVID era, is that a lot of content now is extremely personality driven. So even though some people want to just be like, hey, I'm just like playing whatever, you know, just like that sort of deal where they just kind of want to like exist within the internet space and just have like their gameplay be the main focus and not really them, like there's still gonna be like a bunch of people saying like rat woman bastard, some like demented shit like that. I think that's like really fucked up that A, people would like say that sort of shit in general, and B, there are content creators who have been pushed out of the space because of this sort of behavior.
Farfa has no YouTube series for people to mauled under. They mauled under fucking Master Saga.
I would like to show you a series called Table 500. But yeah, that was a pretty interesting video. Really depressing topics that went on. Yeah, that was like a really depressing video. A lot of fucked up shit, both regarding the treatment of people on the internet and regarding viewer culture as a whole, thanks to us being gamers. Thumbs up, chat. We did it. We made Yu-Gi-Oh worse. Remember, don't be an asshole online.